Hey guys, it's another edition of Sports Clash Radio. Chad, JC, the Martins getting ready to talk pro wrestling stories. Another thing we've been doing here lately. It's been interesting. It's funny because I really can't remember a lot of stuff because my brain has been damaged severely from wrestling.
CTE.
Probably
CTE.
So. It's bad, but one of the things I do remember, one of the things that really stands out, we've been talking about women's wrestling and how far it's come, and we talk about that when we regularly talk about wrestling during the week. But one of the things that stands out is, especially when I was wrestling, I've been around the business for the last almost 20 years now, and God, it makes me really hurt thinking about it. It's been so long. But back then, I think a lot of people remember how women's wrestling used to be, and then they, especially with Moolah and Wendy Richter and some of the old timers who were in there just really doing it, Sherry Martel, and then it moved into the divas, kind of that era of the divas.
Sunny and Sable.
That's right. And then you got Trish in there, Lita. Well, when I just started out, I've always understood one thing about wrestling. It's about entertaining your audience. First and foremost, that's what wrestling is. Now, you can say it's about the athleticism, you can say it's, about the spotlight, whatever you want to say, but it's not. The first and foremost thing that wrestlers do is they entertain an audience, because without an audience, you don't really have anything.
Right.
Anything entertainment-wise, it should always be geared towards your audience. You give the audience what they want, you give them something they don't expect, and you entertain them. You make them remember who you are. You want them to remember when they leave that they had a really good time. And they may not remember a lot of stuff that happens in a show, but they should remember that they really enjoyed the show. Absolutely. That they had fun, they want to go back. Then when wrestling comes back, they know that, you know what? I had fun last time at a wrestling show. I want to go back and see it again. It's no different than the circus. It's no different than the movies. Some people like soap operas. Some people like reality TV, crime shows, comedies, whatever your flavor is. It's all entertainment, and it's all geared towards the audience and entertaining the audience. Well, wrestling's kind of a different monster in the fact that a lot of wrestlers, especially back in the day, would believe their own press and their own hype and how, it's about me. It's about how good I look, and a lot of guys really didn't comprehend. There's a lot of guys that still don't comprehend that it's about the audience. It's about entertaining your audience. And the guys who are successful in this business understand that. They know that it's all about entertaining that audience. Yeah. People who don't, you don't get it, and you never will. But we had a chance, me and a buddy of mine, Stud, we had a chance to go wrestle in Memphis.
A viral video fan.
Yeah, Mike is, yeah. I know some of you guys have seen this video. It's Stud dancing with his $2. He slipped in behind him. Mike Jones slipped in behind his daughters.
He's doing the whipping nay.
Exactly. It's great. It's been everywhere. He actually go on Good Morning America and all that stuff in this video with his daughter, so it was awesome. But early in our careers, we had an opportunity to go wrestle in Memphis as a tag team is what we were going to go up there and wrestle as. Well, a couple of weekends before that, might have been the weekend before that, I went and did a show in Greenville, Mississippi. It was in Greenwood, Mississippi. And it was a big festival. I think it was a balloon festival they had there. And it was for NWA Mississippi at the time, I believe is what it was for. And those guys knew me. I had a reputation because I could run my mouth. I hadn't been in the business maybe 2 or 3 years at that point. But I was known for talking. I could talk. I could run my mouth. I could rile the audience up. And mostly I ran heel almost all the time. Well, we get to the show, and in this building there were probably 3,000 to 4,000 people. It was a big show, especially on the independent scene. That's huge.
Right, that's colossal.
That's like WrestleMania for the independent scene. I mean, that's just a lot of people. Well, I get there and they tell me that, and I wrestled as Big Daddy Storm, and the guys knew, and the promoters knew me, the bookers. They come up and said, "Storm, we want you to start the show out because we know you can talk. We want you to run your mouth." Which was great because you had bigger stars that were on the show at the time. And I was like, yeah, sure. I didn't mind. I never mind going on early curtain jerking is what they call it. But I didn't mind that because it means you got there early.
Right.
Crowd was still hot. They were up. I didn't mind. main event was what I hated more than anything because by that
you have
time
to wait
I was
around.
tired. Yeah, I hated the waiting. The waiting was the worst thing. And after you're done early in your match, you can go get a hot dog, Coke, whatever. Sometimes
Right.
you got paid with a hot dog and a Coke, but at least it was warm and fresh and you got it done early at the night. So it's like, fine, I had to wrestle this green guy, really well built. I mean, just tan, bleached blonde.
He looked the part.
He looked the part. Couldn't wrestle worth a shit. I mean, it was bad. Talking about the drizzling shit. Buddy, this was it. It was awful. He was a nice guy.
And that's coming from you who said that you were never a good wrestler.
Exactly. So if I'm saying it, you know how bad it's got to be. And so we get out there, and I run my mouth. He challenges me to a match. And that's all good. That was our whole gimmick. That's what we were going to do. And I was just going to go out there and beat him. And because it was this one, he only had a handful of matches. So I was just going to carry him through the match, get through it, do my heel thing, and that was going to be the end of the day. Nice payday. It's one of those things where you actually had a nice payday, you know. For us, it was nice because it was in the 3 digits, so that was awesome.
Yeah.
Anytime you get paid over $100 on an indie show, it's like, oh, this is heaven. Especially if you're a nobody, really. And that's what a lot of us were. We're nobodies. You're just getting your feet wet. Well, the promoters come up to me. I'm getting ready for my match, and we're about 30 minutes away from bell time. And I'm just back stretching and not really doing anything. I never really got tense before my matches. I just sit back there and chill out until I got ready, and then we'd go over our stuff and hit the high points of things we wanted to say and do. And they pulled me to the side and said, "We've got a problem." I'm thinking, oh crap. Well, what can this be? Who are they going to have me work? Because I'm already got something else done.
Yeah.
Well, they're supposed to have a women's match on the show, and her name is Malia Hosaka, and she was ranked number 8 in the world at the time. Been wrestled everywhere. She wrestled overseas, WCW, WWF, when it was WWF, all that, NWA. So she had wrestled everywhere with a lot of people.
Right.
But her opponent couldn't make it, so they didn't have anything for her to do.
Because she was, at that point then, the only woman on the card.
That's right. Exactly. And she was getting paid a lot more money than I was.
Right.
You know, but rightfully so, because she's wrestled everywhere.
She had a name.
She had a name. And back then, that really meant something. Back when they were doing, PWI would do all these rankings and rank wrestlers every month at the
For
end of the
those of
magazine.
you who don't know, PWI is Pro Wrestling Illustrated.
Yeah. And they had their rankings every month, and I used to look at the rankings all the time, not because I was ever going to be in it, but even before I became a wrestler or anything, I always looked at it anyway. But because it was just cool to see how they were ranked. That's when, especially when I was young and I believed in all the realism of everything. I was, oh, who's number 1? No, that's wrong. But she was ranked number 8 in the world, and even in every magazine, she was really good. And so they said, well, she doesn't have an opponent. And when somebody says that to you, you know what they're meaning.
Right.
You know,
will you work her?
Will you work this girl? And that was very taboo back then. You just didn't do that.
Right.
You did that, that was it. Well, me, I was going to say I'm not real smart, but that's not true. I didn't care. I was like, absolutely. And it took them back when I said that, because I don't think they were expecting me to say okay.
You're right.
Yeah, I don't know if they were expecting me to say it, but I was like, yeah, sure. They're like, really? I'm like, well, yeah, should I not? No, that's great. We just, you want to go talk to her? I'm like, yeah, I'll go talk to her. So I got back there, and when I walked in, she said, I appreciate this so much that you're doing this and stuff. You don't have to do this. Nobody else wants to work with me. I don't mind at all. Let's go out there and have fun. She's like, great. So we put the match together and decided what we were going to do. She said, well, just go out there and beat the hell out of me. And I think we can do that. And I told her what I was doing with this guy. I said, I'm just going out to beat the hell out of him. I said, after the match is over with, I'll just keep beating him up. You come out there for the save. Because that's going to be unique.
Which looks even better for this greenhorn that you were just talking
Exactly.
about. Because not only is he the bigger, more physically imposing human being, but you would just beat him up, beat him down, beat him all around, and then he gets saved by like you said at the time, this was taboo for a man to wrestle a woman.
Exactly.
But he also got saved by a woman.
Yeah, and I'll pop this picture up on the screen. This is Malia, and this is me. She gave me a big hug after the match. You can see it right here, which is pretty cool. She was pretty hot, especially back then. She was really hot. So, anyway, that's going to be our whole deal. Then after that, she's going to challenge me to a match. And you can see the guy's eyes in the back like, dude, what are you doing? Oh, yeah, I'm going to do this. I didn't pay attention. So I guess they were all talking about it.
Of course.
In the back. And I didn't pay attention. I was excited about doing all this stuff. I was going to get to work twice. And
that's double the exposure.
Yeah. So I was going to have fun because I just love the entertainment part of it. So I knew I was going to be able to go out there and do this with him. And I had all the ideas that I was going to say. And I was like, I think this is going to be great. And there's a big crowd out there, which anybody who says working in front of a big crowd doesn't energize you is a liar. I don't care who you are.
If you're a performer, you want to work in front of a big crowd.
And if you don't, and if they tell you, I ignore the crowd when I'm out there, no, you don't. And as a wrestling performer, you better not.
Yeah, if you're a wrestler, if you're a wrestler and you are not paying attention to the crowd, that means you're not feeding off the crowd and feeding off their energy. Because if you feed off their energy, you get a better feel for your own match and what you should do next and what you shouldn't do next.
Exactly. You've got to be able to read a crowd, and you can only do that by listening to them. So I go out there, I beat the guy up. After the match, I don't stop. I'm just beating him down. Then she comes out there for the save. And then I'm being out there all cocky. The audience just giving me what for. They're all yelling, which is great. How you want to start the show. The show was hot. And I was so arrogant. My character was so arrogant and cocky. My character, Big Daddy Storm, was so arrogant and cocky that even guys in the back thought that's who I was. I mean, seriously, my reputation was that somebody's just arrogant, it's cocky, but it wasn't. It was Storm.
It's a character.
And when I'm back working on my stuff to go out there, because I knew that I didn't have the technical ability to be great. You weren't going to remember me for that, and I've said this many times. I said at the start of the show, I had to make you remember me somehow, and my character's attitude was all about that.
Right.
He thought he was the best wrestler in the whole universe, and you couldn't tell him any different. And that was the difference between the character and the man. So when I was out there and she came out there with a save, she dared to challenge me, Big Daddy Storm. I don't think so. You're not doing that. So absolutely, if you think I'm going to take it easy on you, you're wrong. So there's another match in between that, 2 more matches in between that. My music hit, came out there, that place was up for it. Hers came out there, that place went crazy. And we locked up, we were in the ring, and I'll never forget it, because you had the bleachers, you had chairs down there, and you had all these people there, and they're just staring at you. It's hard to describe. If you've never been a wrestler, it's so hard to describe, but it's one of the great feelings that you'll ever have. When you're up there, you're the center of attention. It is a huge ego rush. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. If you don't get an ego rush from it, from people who are paying attention to you, are entertained by what you're doing and invested in what you're doing.
Because they're going to see so many matches throughout the night. At some point, they're not going to care about a particular match.
So you have to make it unique and you have to make it memorable. And the way for me to do that is just be Storm. Just let Storm do his thing and let him be who he is. If I was wrestling a dude, I was treating her the same way. So she's in there and she's getting ready and we're locking up, and here's me all tall and long hair and dressed all in black and black leather. I mean, it was a sight. We locked up and people are just cussing me, giving me what for. And so when we did that, I reached out. As soon as we locked up, I just drew back and punched her. Bam! And she just hit the deck. Talking about bumping. She's so fast. She just hit the floor hard. And that place, people just came out of their seats. I mean, just came out booing and cussing me and screaming at me, "You son of a..." I mean, they were just lighting into me. Just hard and heavy because I dared hit a woman.
Right.
It's a match. What are you talking about?
You're a horrible human being.
So I'm like, "Oh, you didn't like that?" So I picked her up by the hair off the mat. And I was over the top of her, and I just reached back up, and BAM! Again, just nailed her again. Just laid it in, and oh my God, you could tell they were wanting to get to me in the ring.
Right.
Which was awesome. That was so awesome. And I'm like, I said, because that's what you need to do to her every single night and keep her fat ass in line. And it was just
talking to someone ringside.
Someone in the audience.
Right.
Yeah. And I just picked her up, and I said, "Baby, this is for you. This is what your husband needs to do to you." BAM! Just nailed her again, And no, I do not promote domestic violence, so please chill out. All right, so that's not what we're talking about here.
We're talking about entertainment.
Entertainment, the bad guy, which is what I was, completely evil heel.
Right, if you don't like what he's doing, then that means he's doing his job.
You're not supposed to like it. Nobody should like that. No one, and believe me, heels would get, how heels get where they get, people start cheering them because they're cool and stuff like that, nobody was cheering. They were all booing, which is what you want as a heel. You should not be a heel and go out there and want adulation. That's not your job. Your job is to get that face all the adulation. And I just beat the crap out of her all around the ring, slamming her, suplexing her. I mean, just beating the crap out of her. And we did let the greenhorn come back out there at the end as a kind of a distraction. I wish I could even remember his name. But, and then she got in one move on me, schoolboy me, well, it wasn't even a schoolboy, it was almost like a small package. She hit me, I can't remember what she hit me with, and rolled me up real quick, and the referee fast counted, 1, 2, 3. I mean, it was real quick, it was, and that was it. And then, of course, the fans went crazy. I mean, cheering just out of their seats. It was thunderous. It was wild. You just echoed throughout the building. It was such a great feeling. And, of course, I still had to play the pissed off heel. I couldn't believe this happened. How did I get beat by a girl and all this other stuff? You know, and I'm throwing a fit all the way back, and she's celebrating the ring. People are clapping for her and laughing at me and yelling at me, and that's what you get, what you deserve. Of course, I got to the back, big smile on my face. It was awesome. The guys, the promoters, like, man, that was awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. I was like, I appreciate it. They gave me a little extra in my envelope, which I appreciated that too, which is always nice.
But you did pull double duty for them. You helped them out of 2 spots.
Yeah, and then we took that picture that I showed earlier, which was great. I mean, she thanked me a lot for it, for everything. She thought it was great the way it turned out and had fun. It was awesome. Awesome experience. Because that's what you really want. I mean, I probably slept the best. I told that story for months. I enjoyed it. Well, me and Stud went up to Memphis the next week where they're having Power Pro Wrestling. And they had worked to get us in there and to talk to guys and stuff. And so we were supposed to go up there for our tryout to go in and talk and get in there. We got up there. And I hadn't gotten in the door. Oh my God, I hadn't been there 2 minutes, and the guy pulled me to the side. A couple of them did. 2 I remember specifically, and I won't say their names, but it was like, man, we heard what you did in Greenwood last week. I was like, it was awesome, wasn't it? Man, because I had the loudest pop of the night. I mean, that's what you want.
Right.
You want that reaction. Your match should get the loudest reaction. You should always work towards that. That should always be your goal. Because you've done something right. It's like, no, dude, man, you can't do that stuff.
Can't do what? Entertain an audience?
Well, that's what I said. I'm like, well, isn't our job entertaining? I said, because 2 of the guys were there. I'm like, you heard that? I'm like, and I told the other, I said, you heard that? Yeah, I mean, they responded great, but putting over women.
It's not like she beat you up.
That's what I said. But they're like, that's frowned upon, man. You can't do it. It makes you look bad. I'm like, how did it make me look bad? They fast counted me. She rolled me up, had a handful of tights. They fast counted me. My shoulders weren't even on the mat. The other guy came out and distracted me. There was nothing bad about that situation.
Right, you beat her up for 5 to 10 minutes.
That's what I said. I'm like, I beat the living hell out of her. I mean, literally, she didn't get anything in on me until that move at the end when that happened. We got blacklisted. Couldn't go back and wrestle up there. Never even got my foot in the door in Memphis because of that right there.
The politics of entertainment.
Politics of entertainment. All for doing your job, man. Right. And that was kind of the whole thing is your job was to entertain. And you know what? I don't regret it. I've never regretted it.
But if you were to do that today, you never would have been blacklisted. You would have been celebrated for what you did.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's just, that's the difference that 20 years can make.
Yeah, it really is, and the way the business is today, that's one of the things about the business that, at least from a behind-the-scenes perspective, they would have understood because they probably would have been their idea, say, hey, this is what y'all do because this would be fun.
Because back then it was very much a good old boys club.
Yeah, because when we were talking about that and the promoters realized that I was going to put her over there, they're still like, wow, he's going to put her over and I'm let you pin me. It's not like we're doing disqualification or anything here.
Right, and this is kind of like you're basically discussing feminism and sexism in wrestling.
Yeah, exactly.
And because we talk about how this is entertainment.
That's right.
How you have a job, you're supposed to go out there and get an audience cheer, and they paid you extra money to go out there and continue to do your job, and you did it. You put Malia over, made her look like make her look like $1,000, even though she was. That's probably what she made that night.
It probably was. She probably made so much more.
She was number 8 in the world in the women's rankings, but you could tell that back in the day that was very much the ideology. But it was like that in so many professions, whether it is the business world or what have you. Women weren't given that same respect, and now fast forward 20 years. Like I said, you could have done that. You could have done that last weekend and everyone would have loved you. Every promoter in this area would have called you and like, hey man, can you be on my show?
Yeah, because we heard what you did. That sounded like it was awesome. Right. We got another idea, something similar we can do with this person. But back then, it wasn't like that. Even though we told a great story about overcoming the adversity of these a-hole guys who were mistreating women and putting them down and trying to keep them in a certain spot. And it was, we told a whole story, which was awesome, which is what I loved about it.
But to me, it makes me wonder, how did women in pro wrestling up to that point? I mean, how did they make it as far as they did?
Well, because
how did she make it all across the world if this is the kind of mindset that she was dealing with constantly?
Well, that's why women just really wrestled women.
Right.
Because you had your women's division, because there was a niche for that. And, come on, guys to a certain extent, and I'm not saying all guys, but guys like to watch women fight and watch women wrestle, and they like women in skimpy outfits.
And kayfabe was such a huge thing back then.
Exactly.
You have to protect the business, this is real. We're really out here fighting each other.
Exactly. And even when Trish Stratus and all those women came around, they were more eye candy than anything else.
And that's definitely how Trish started. She evolved eventually into a wrestler.
And she became a damn good worker.
Right.
And stuff, but she had to fight for every bit of that. And her and Lita and women like that were really the catalyst for what you're kind of seeing today. But then it started going away again, and we got back to the whole diva thing. Yeah. And how beautiful can we make these girls who really can't work?
And all that.
Yeah, because you did see a lot of the older women wrestlers coming up weren't these goddesses in the ring and stuff.
Right.
I mean, they weren't these beauty queens and things. But that's what kind of WWE made a lot of these women. But now,
because sex sells.
But thankfully now what we're seeing are women who are taken seriously in wrestling, because these ladies can go. We talked about Sasha and Charlotte maybe actually main eventing Hell in a Cell.
Because who would have thought that would have ever happened? Two women, because of this mindset that we've been discussing here, who would have thought that two women are going to get to main event a pay-per-view? Not only main event a pay-per-view, but be the first two women to ever compete inside of Hell in a Cell.
Yeah. And do so convincingly.
Right, and we've seen the main event Raw.
Yes.
They've done that. But, Trish and Lita did that. So that had been done before. It was cool to see it happen again, but it had been done.
That's right.
But now they're taking it a step further, and they have the opportunity to actually take it 2 steps further, and not only further the women's division within WWE, but to further women's wrestling around the world.
Yeah, and I've said this before. I don't think you should put them on main event just to say we put women on as a main event. I think they should be main event because they've earned it. They have completely earned it. They put their bodies on the line with the stuff that they do out there. They put their bodies on the line every bit as much as the men do. I mean, it's just as dangerous for them as it is for anybody else. And they work hard, and I think there should be a payoff for those ladies who do that. It would not hurt my feelings to tune into Hell in a Cell on Sunday. And some of you guys and gals may be listening to this after the fact. But when we obviously record this before the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, but it wouldn't hurt my feelings to go all night long and have those ladies headlining Hell in a Cell, and I would not be disappointed, because I've seen everybody who's followed wrestling, followed WWE, and followed these two ladies have seen the kind of matches they can put on. We've seen that all the time. So I have no doubt they're going to put on a match. I want to see them do it in Hell in a Cell, and to have them main event it would not be anything that would go, oh, wow, WWE put 2 chicks on the end of the main event, on a pay-per-view. Well, I think that's archaic thinking, first of all.
Absolutely.
And really shows your really lack of education and your lack of brain power, and tells me that you have not been following these ladies and what they can do.
And it's weird because when you think the Hell in a Cell matches, you can think back to certain exact moments.
Yeah.
Inside.
Oh my God.
In these Hell in a Cell matches, you can think back to that. Even though it wasn't the first Hell in a Cell match, but everyone thinks back to Undertaker and Mankind.
Oh yeah, and they should, because that was crazy.
They don't necessarily think back to Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. If they do, that's more because that was Kane's debut.
Yeah.
That was the first Hell in a Cell, but they think back to Undertaker and Mankind because to start off the match, they start on top of the cell. Taker, of course, we know he ends up throwing Mick Foley off the top of the cell through the commentator's table. Mick Foley suffers a litany of injuries, separated shoulder, all sorts of stuff, concussion. Comes back, climbs back up with one arm, gets chokeslammed on a chair through the cell. The chair flips over, hits him in the mouth, knocks his teeth out. One of his teeth ends up in his nose. He gets chokeslammed on thumbtacks. But you like that; those images they stick with you.
That's right.
But then you think that things like this year at WrestleMania, Shane McMahon versus Undertaker. Shane jumped off the top of the cell to get on the Undertaker. Undertaker got up to move, and Shane went crashing through the table again. You have all these breathtaking moments. Even though it wasn't quite as high of a bump last year, Hell in a Cell match between Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. They're bashing each other's head on the side of the cage, and then they both take bumps off of the cage through commentators' tables. You know, we've seen Charlotte go up top and do her moonsault to the outside. Well, now she's been doing like a corkscrew twist with her moonsault from the top turnbuckle to the outside of the ring.
Can't wait to see what she's going to do
with
this.
If she does that maneuver off the top of the cell, it might legitimately be the scariest thing I've ever watched on television.
So it would be hard to watch.
Because with a moonsault, there's so much room for error.
Yeah.
You know, like a plancha or a body splash is very controlled.
Exactly.
You have a better idea of where you're going. You can see where your body is, where your trajectory.
When you're spinning in the air like that,
right?
You take all the control away.
And man, but if she hits that move, that place is going to come unglued.
Oh, it'll be nuts. That whole thing will be nuts. So I'm excited about it. I really hope they go that way. I'm looking forward to it. So, well, I guess and that was kind of my whole point with this whole story and why I wanted to tell this particular story this week. Because I really think the women have come so far, and how we view women in wrestling has come so far, and rightfully so, and not because we're having an agenda pushed on us one way or the other.
Right.
But simply because they've earned it.
They busted ass.
Proven that they can go out there and hang with these guys all the way and put on every bit as good of an entertaining show. And that's all you ask for as a wrestling fan. You want to be entertained.
And you know, WWE has been throwing around the term of the women's revolution for the last few years. But that all started in NXT.
Yeah.
Yes, it did. You could say that really started with Paige.
Yeah.
And then Paige came up to the main roster. Her first night on the main roster, she took the Divas Championship off of AJ Lee. But then in NXT you still had Becky Lynch, you had Bayley, you had Sasha, you had Charlotte. And these four women were consistently tearing the house down.
Yeah.
Bayley and Sasha main evented, you know, one of the NXT TakeOver events, and they had an Iron Woman match.
Yeah.
And they absolutely tore it up.
Yeah.
So the women's revolution is really the product of the hard work of Sasha, and Becky, Charlotte, and Bayley. And these women have been tearing it up for years. You know, if some of you haven't been watching NXT, it is the best wrestling program that WWE has.
That very thing right there is the reason why getting the WWE Network is so worth it. And believe me, we don't get paid or anything to say that stuff.
No.
But for all the content you get to see and some of the awesome things that the regular fan during the week is missing, and it's only $9.99 or $9.95 or whatever it is, and it's $10. You can't go wrong with spending $10 to watch all the wrestling you could ever get. Pay-per-views that used to run you $30, $40, $50, $60 a month to watch one of these things.
Right.
You get all of that stuff.
And that was, $50, $60 each.
Exactly.
Now with the brand split, you're getting pretty much 2 a month.
Yeah.
So now you're getting $100 to $120 worth of programming for $10.
Exactly. Plus you get to watch NXT.
But NXT, I mean, that is where it's at. They have a huge event coming up the weekend of Survivor Series. The night before, on that Saturday night, they'll be in Toronto, Canada. Mickie James is returning to the fold, taking on the Japanese sensation and the NXT Women's Champion, Asuka, which should be an awesome match to see. Ty Dillinger versus Bobby Roode.
There you go.
Bobby Roode's fantastic. Shinsuke Nakamura, of course, he'll tear the house down against Samoa Joe.
That's a whole different flavor and feel too.
Right,
that's what I love about NXT.
It's like an indie promotion feel with NXT or with WWE production value.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the feel of it. If you want to watch good wrestling that tells a story and entertains, like the story that he was talking about with Malia Hosaka, that's where you get it. It's with NXT. You're not going to really get all of that on the main roster, but when it comes to these big matches on pay-per-views, or even on Raw, like when you watch Sasha Banks versus Charlotte a couple weeks ago when Sasha won the championship back, You know, that was an awesome match.
Exactly.
And the fans ate it up.
Yes, they did. So that's what we're talking about. So we appreciate you tuning in, listening to these stories tonight, and kind of our view on where we see women's wrestling going. Thanks for tuning in always and giving your feedback and listening to us talk. And we really appreciate it because it's our love of ours. We really enjoy doing it. You probably hear the excitement in our voice, especially when we talk wrestling. It's just something that's near and dear right there. So we go on all night. We have to cut ourselves off just to do that, to take this thing home. So follow us on patreon.com/sportsclash, Facebook, Sports Clash Radio, Twitter, Sports Clash Rad. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us, share it, get the word out there, help us spread the word. We really appreciate everything that you do for us and being involved and listening to us ramble. If you have thoughts or comments, hey, let us know. You got some opinions, you got some subjects you'd like to hear us talk about, please ask away. We'll try to answer anything we can. But for now, I'm Chad, that's JC, we're out of here.